Once upon a time there was a university. It was built in the dead ruins of an older university. It wasn't very big, perhaps 50 people in all, but it was the best university for miles and miles. So people came and learned and left. There was a small group of people who gathered there, people whose knowledge went beyond mathematics and grammar and rhetoric. One of the more mysterious and unique places of Patrick Rothfuss's Kingkiller world is the Underthing, a vast subterranean network of intersecting tunnels and spaces beneath the university. It's fascinating because it hints at a history lost to time. In many fictional works, the setting is static, unmoving. It's used as a mere backdrop with the world painted over it to create a striking scenery. A setting may affect the characters, but it tends not to interact with them, unless the setting itself is treated as a character. In the Kingkiller companion novella, The Slow Regard of Silent Things, we spend about a week in the life of the mysterious Auri, who lives in the derelict Underthing as she waits for a visit from Kvothe. Although Auri is very sweet and kind, she's not all there mentally. She brings an interesting perspective to the story and treats everything in the Underthing as its own character, from the chambers to an old belt buckle. She attributes identity and intent to almost everything she encounters, so this helps flesh out the Underthing and almost brings the abandoned structure to life. The Underthing is so enormous and labyrinthian that even Auri is yet to explore its full depths. In chapter 87 of The Name of the Wind, Kvothe offers a description of the room called the Through Bottom. A room like a cathedral, so big that neither Auri's blue light nor my red one reached the highest peaks of the ceiling. All around us were huge, ancient machines. Some lay in pieces, broken gears taller than a man, leather straps gone brittle with age, great wooden beams that were now explosions of white fungus, huge as hedgerows. Other machines were intact, but worn by centuries of neglect. I approached an iron block, as big as a farmer's cottage, and broke off a single flake of rust, large as a dinner plate. Underneath was nothing but more rust. Nearby there were 3 great pillars, covered in green verdigris, so thick it looked like moss. Many of the huge machines were beyond identifying, looking more melted than rusted. But I saw something that might have been a water wheel, 3 stories tall, lying in a dry canal that ran like a chasm through the middle of the room. I had only the vaguest of ideas as to what any of the machines might have done. I had no guess at all as to why they had lain here for uncounted centuries, deep underground. They didn't seem... And then the chapter is abruptly cut short, just before any more information is revealed. This is because in the frame story, Old Cobb and his friends have arrived at the inn for lunch, interrupting Kvothe's tale. This is a clever literary technique, used to cut off a character speaking just before he reveals an important piece of information. We know that Kvothe is quite clever when it comes to deductive reasoning, as well as tinkering with devices as seen during his classes at the fishery, so we can assume that he may have provided some useful insight into the machinery that dwelled there, especially something that us theorists could pick apart whilst waiting for book 3. From what I gather, the Underthing is old, very old, perhaps spanning back thousands of years, and yet it has some impressive feats of architecture and engineering for something so ancient. According to Aladdin, the university used to be an academy that was much smaller in size, more profound in its teachings of magic and naming, but nevertheless small. This suggests that the current university was built on the ruins of a small centre of power and learning. But given what we know about the Underthing, the former university must have been interconnected with something greater. Rather than assuming that the Underthing is just the remains of the old university, I'm more inclined to believe that it was an accumulation of construction over a long period of time. The wide assortment of rooms does point to a location, serving various purposes. A popular theory is that the university is built upon the colossal wreck of an antique city, specifically one of the cities from Scarpi's story. Scarpi tells us that all but 8 cities of the Urgan Empire were destroyed following the onslaught of the Creation War. These cities are named Belen, Antis, Ferret, Tenusa, Emlyn, the twin cities of Marilla and Marella, and the famous Mir Terrenial. Mir Terrenial is the obvious choice if we're looking for a prominent city that is featured in the books, though this does present a problem. Imri and the university have never been described as having mountains in its region, like Mir Terrenial has. What we do know is that the university is located in the Belenay-Barren. Evidence supporting this is found on one of Denna's letters, addressed to Kvoth, which names the province. As we know, Belen is one of the 7 cities that was attacked when Lanway betrayed everyone. Given that the names Belen and Belenay are phonetically similar, we can say with some certainty that the city of Belen was once part of the Central Commonwealth, and thus the Underthing may just be that, the destroyed ruins of Belen. Following the Creation War, a conflict which slaughtered millions, there's a good possibility that the remaining namers, artificers, and sympathists were persecuted for the role they played in the war. Perhaps, to avoid being hunted down, they built the university underground in the sinking ruins of Belen, so they may study and practice their magic in peace. Over time, as the general populace forgot all about the existence of magic and the Fae, these learned people came to the surface and built the university we know. Considering the reservations the townsfolk of Imri have, and Vinter's superstitions towards anything magical, this would make sense. What this doesn't explain is why the Underthing is so disused, so unvisited, and so unknown to the people of the university. When Auri first brings Kvoth into the Underthing, he is astounded by how far down the tunnels take him. He discovers massive rusted machines, pipes, and cathedral-like buildings all under the ground, connected by miles of corridors, hidden away and never used. One would imagine that with all the ancient mechanical stuff that's buried down there, scholars would at least be curious to research the place. It is interesting that there are many references to gears and wheels throughout the Chronicle, but the most important one I could find ties directly to the Underthing. In chapter 23 of The Name of the Wind, Trappist shares his story of Icanis, the enemy of Telu and a powerful demon. It is said that Telu carried Icanis to the smithy. He called for iron, and people brought all they owned. Though he had taken no rest nor a morsel of food, all through the 9th day Telu laboured. While 10 men worked the bellows, Telu forged the great iron wheel. All night he worked, and when the first light of the 10th morning touched him, Telu struck the wheel one final time, and it was finished. Wrought all of black iron, the wheel stood taller than a man. The story goes that Telu forged this massive iron wheel and tied it to Icanis' body, trapping him. I want to direct your attention to the line about the wheel standing taller than a man. The language is very similar to when Kvoth is talking about the Underthing, particularly when he says, broken gears taller than a man. What if the Underthing is the site where Telu constructed the black iron wheel Icanis was chained to? That would be a pretty neat twist, especially if Icanis, the enemy locked behind the doors of stone, and the sleeping Barrow King are all the same person. What could happen is that someone opens the 4-plate door, which has been speculated to be one of the doors of stone. That someone would most likely be Devi, who finds her way into the archives by following Kvoth through the Underthing. Remember, the Underthing is important to Kvoth, as it was the only way to access the archives when he was banned. Just maybe, Devi releases whatever evil is trapped inside, and it chases her back down through the Underthing. Then, instead of finding Devi, it takes Auri instead, forcing Kvoth to rescue her. This would fit well with the anticipated narrative about Kvoth stealing princesses back from sleeping Barrow Kings, which of course hinges on Auri being Princess Ariel. Bear in mind, this is all just speculation, and it might not pan out this way, but it is certainly something to consider. I am sure the Underthing will play a role in the upcoming Doors of Stone novel, and I'm quite eager to have confirmation on exactly what it is. Whether it's just the underbelly of the university, or a destroyed city with some buildings and corridors preserved from the remote past, we're going to have to wait to find out. What's also interesting though is how some of the tools found in the rooms from the past appear to match the technology of the current world above. We can presume that Temerant is operating at a Renaissance era level of technology. This might suggest that the world of Temerant is stagnant. For hundreds of years there may have been no technological or cultural progress, and that something or someone is preventing the world from advancing. But let me know your thoughts. What do you think of the Underthing? What secrets do you think it holds? Comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, do consider leaving a like. I also really appreciate it if you want to support the channel, which you can do so by subscribing. Catch you later.